Just like today when you're like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Where he literally explained it.
Wait,
and
we're
started
supposed to
like,
do
What? Huh?
I
Alright,
hang it.
so 12 minutes. So it was 12 minutes. You read passage, answered 12 questions. So if you got done within the 12 minutes, you have a pretty good sense that probably time then on the multiple choice isn't really going to be a huge issue. If you did not finish, and you still had a question or two to go, that does not mean that, all right, we have serious problems that we need to try to rectify. Couple things. If you do not finish, who cares? Because when I say that, it's not that you're going to only answer 25 of the roughly 55 or 58 questions. I think we're pretty well beyond those points. If someone doesn't finish, you're probably going to be answering 52 out of the 55 or 58, maybe 49 out of 54 or 56 or something like that. So it's not going to be a large quantity of questions. As opposed to rushing through those final 10. Like you have 3 minutes to go, 10 questions to go. Rather than rushing through those final 10, answer the ones that you can as accurately as possible. So if it means I have to spend a little bit more time to get these 5 questions right, as opposed to rushing through 8 or 9 questions, that's what I'm going to do. Because if I'm going to answer a small number, but I'm answering them at a fairly high success rate, I'm going to be okay. Say the multiple choice, and they always say roughly 55 to 60, so we don't know what the exact number is going to be. Let's say it's 55. I only answer 40, okay, which I think could be well beyond 40. I get 3 out of every 4 correct, 75%. Of those 40 questions, then I'm answering them at a rate that a person would get a 5 on the AP exam if you're at 3/4. So out of 40, I'm answering 75% correct. My total correct would be 30. Good. Get us there eventually. 30 out of 55 is still passing. Remember, the passing mark is roughly 50%. It's usually like 48 or 49%. So by rushing through those last ones, I have a better chance of probably getting questions wrong that I would have been able to get right. I'd rather maximize my accuracy on the ones that I'm going to take care of.
Are the grades adjusted at all, like for SATs? Like how it's possible to it's not exact
There is a bell curve traditionally. So there's more more often than not, you're going to have about 30% get a 2, about 30% get a 3, 20% get 4, and then that last 20% is split between the 1s and the 5. So it's not a perfect one, but it tends to even out that way. I think you're going to see a better chance of that kind of average thing happening on the essay as opposed to the multiple choice. It might be a year where they go, you know what, the passing mark for 3 this year for the multiple choice is going to be 50.4%. Maybe 1 year it's a 48.7% kind of thing. So there certainly could be some fluctuation, but I don't think it would be drastic. I don't think there would be a situation where, hey, you got a third of them right. You know what? That's a 3 this year. There'd always be some variance, but I don't think it would be a drastic thing. There are some years that the percentage of people that got a 5 is just lower. The percentage of people that got a 2, it's higher, but it usually kind of falls somewhere in the those kind of percentages there that I threw out. Some folks would look at this as being the difficult passage on the overall exam because you take a look at the first part and it tells us when is this coming from? 18th century. So if I'm writing this numerically, the 18th century is actually the 1700s. So this one is a fairly old passage. On an AP exam, one passage is going to be considered kind of like archaic or antiquated, meaning it's going to be coming from prior to 1900. The rest of the passages are going to be the 20th century or the 21st. So if this were like, say, your first passage, the rest would all be much more recent. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be easier, but I think so far as the style, the syntax, the diction, people kind of probably find it to be a little bit easier. Although you might be reading a passage about quantum physics from the 1950s and not enjoy it, or maybe you would.
Figured I'll run through the answers for like each page, and then if there's any issues that we have with those answers, we can go over it at that point. Passage as a whole, makes sense?
Yeah. I think it was. I couldn't like read through it as fast as like I wanted to read through passages just for the language, but like it wasn't.
If you were to say the overall argument, which I know there's kind of a question that kind of hints towards that, but overall, like concept, if you were putting your own words, what's the author trying to communicate? That'd be pretty accurate. So it's nice to think about that essay. It's not good to actually write the essay. Or Mrs. Kane likes to think about the house renovation project. Mr. Kane does not like doing the house.
It's a house renovation project.
Oh, there's always something. Well, it'll be summertime. She always wants new doors. I don't mind the doors. I just don't want to do all the trim and molding that goes around the doors. Back porch this year.
Never get a new period.
Did it, done it, moving on.
You can pay me to do it. Yeah.
All right, 44 was E, 45 C, 46 A. Any of those you want to discuss?
46.
Okay.
I said, I thought it was supposed to be like humor of what the actual Greek.
So you went E.
Yeah, I circled A and I erased it and then circled E. It's like, it seemed.
I could see
like
E
what,
being a common choice.
Yeah, it seemed like what the author was saying was cynical commentary, but it seemed like what he was saying, the Greek poet was supposed to be like, not even a joke, but like.
I would definitely say there is humorous intent with it. By the way, anyone know what epigram is?
It's the thing you give either a dead person or a speech.
No.
That's
No.
eulogy and or elegy.
No.
And there's an epigraph, which is when you open the book. That's like in Slaughterhouse 5. There's a reference to like Jesus in the manger. An epigram is it's really a witty saying. Like, so a piece of advice that has some humorous aspect to it. So an epigrammatist is someone who writes these kind of humorous phrases. So the malicious remark of the Greek epigrammist on marriage may be applied to every other course of life. It's 2 days of happiness, or the first and the last. People talk about that with boats now. Two happiest days with a boat is the day you buy it and the day you sell it. I've never had a boat, so I can't say that would be right or wrong. But while humor would be part of it, Jesse, I would say you still have the cynical commentary that while the argument is that marriage is going to be something that brings happiness to you, the glass is half empty commentary that he would be making is no. After that first day, it's all downhill after that. I'm not going to turn this into a DRQ as to whether or not that's true or not. You can ask. Gus.
Are you going to write that as a case?
Nope. Other two were okay?
Yeah.
At least we think so. 47 is E, sublime pleasures of planning. 48, I could see kind of being a little bit tricky, but it is A. Then for 49 through 51, we go on a little bit of run, which is going to make some people nervous, because 49 is B, 50 is B, 51 is B. 52, if you put B, the run came to an end because it switched to E.
I'm liking these questions.
I think 48 and 50 are probably the ones that could potentially cause the most difficulty. 50. Because in a way, because 50 depends upon 48. So when you take a look at 48, when you're looking at many and others, what is the big characteristic that is going to switch the two? When we have the many, pleasure of planning, which I think we kind of already said, you like the fact that you're going to be taking a look at something and coming up with it, but they never attempt or hope to execute it. The others are the people who end up kind of running out of time. So the man who gets discussed in lines 33 to 36, you're taking a look at, which starts down here, of the man who involves himself in his own thoughts and never suffers experience to show him the vanity of speculation because he does not want to kind of break up his peace and all those kinds of things. He would be a person who was never attempting something, so he's one of the many, or doesn't at least have the plan to attempt anything. For 53B, 54E, 55A.
I don't like that one.
Anyone have a definition for strident?
Trident?
Strident.
Trident.
Not trident, not the gum, nor the shoes with stride
I was
right.
thinking of like the thing
Yeah,
that
there it is.
side bones.
The fish steer thing.
Good point.
Harsh, like severely harsh. So if there is a strident tone, you're really becoming upset about something. So it becomes harsh when the speaker anticipates any kind of objections that could be necessarily kind of coming its way. I think for 54, some people don't like 54 because there's just not that answer that truly jumps out and go, ooh, I can clearly see what that overall tone is going to be. I would say with the confidence and authority aspect to it, he's really not mentioning any other potential possibilities, that he is pretty sure in himself and what he would be explaining, and therefore the authority kind of comes across with it in that regard. Within the passage itself, since it is an older one, we already talked about what an epigrammatus would be. Anybody have a definition, and you can base this from context, for felicity? I wonder where we got triumph from. Positive or negative connotation? Yeah, it's positive because it is going along with triumph. So cheerfulness, blissfulness would be something along with felicity. How about Elysian? Where'd it go? There we go.
I saw that. Yeah, that wasn't one of the questions.
Yeah, I think it was 47. Yeah, the phrase, line 17, suggests, the phrase Elysian prospect suggests sublime pleasures of planning, which I think you can tell from just in general context of the passage that the pleasure, that it's better to plan than it is to actually pursue or do something. Anyone familiar with Elysium? Oh, no. You did the yes, right. Elysium's like heaven. The Elysian fields would be where all the venerable souls are supposed to go. So there's definitely a positive connotation, not necessarily a sense of happiness, but definitely a positive connotation that would be going along with Elysian. So with this one, because it is 1700s, you are going to get some phrases that kind of come across. Alacrity with line 45 also might be a term. That would be just like felicity, where you're dealing with cheerfulness, happiness. So pay attention to maybe some words and look at the context around them to see if you can better understand them. But you can still figure out overall what would be happening with the passage, even if there's a couple words that you might be a little unsure of. When it comes to overall, if you were in, out of 12, if you were dealing with 6 to 7 answers correct, you would be at a 3. All right, 6 would be on the right at that cusp because it would be 50%. 7 is like a 58%, so that would be a strong 3. If you were getting 8 out of 12, you're at 2/3 correct. That would be a definite 4. Anything 9 or higher, since you're at 75%, that would be putting you in a 5 category for it. So a couple things. Same era as a lot of the poems that we were looking at, but I think because it's in prose, you're a little bit more comfortable with it. Number 2, time isn't really a big factor the way it may have been before, even if you're doing a cold reading for the first time. And I also think in some ways you're probably starting to pick up, like in the second column when there was some parallel structure taking place. I'm kind of hopeful that people are going, ooh, here's some parallelism. There might be some kind of emphasis that's going to take place here,
even if there wasn't a question specifically about it, you still would start to kind of be picking up on some of those patterns, characteristics that show up within the passage. Tomorrow, you're going to have two passages from the same text. So you know that they're not going to be from the 1700s, so they'll probably be a little more recent, and probably feel a little bit more comfortable.
Just